drama in the rap world just hit another fever pitch, and this time, Drake is at the center of it. Sources are now revealing that the superstar rapper allegedly misrepresented facts about Kendrick Lamar in a series of interviews and social media posts, sparking outrage across fans, artists, and the hip-hop community. But the story doesn't stop there. While the debate over truth, loyalty, and clout unfolds, Drake has also dropped a new diss track that critics are calling weak and uninspired, further fueling speculation that his credibility may be slipping. Meanwhile, in a completely different corner of the music world, legendary duo Clipse is making history with a career-defining move that's commanding attention. Fans are torn. Some are focused on Drake's missteps, while others are celebrating Clipse's groundbreaking success. The juxtaposition of these two stories, one about controversy, the other about triumph, has made this week one of the most talked about moments in modern hip-hop. In this video, we break down the lies, the reactions, and the fallout surrounding Drake's latest moves. We'll dive into Kendrick's response, fan outrage, and what this week's diss track really means for Drake's reputation. At the same time, we'll highlight Clipse's historic achievement and explore why this moment is significant not just for them, but for the culture at large. From social media frenzy to insider reactions, from critical analysis to breaking updates, you'll get the full story in one place. This isn't just music gossip, it's a high-stakes clash of credibility, artistry, and legacy. By the end of this video, you'll understand why fans are calling this week a turning point for both Drake and Clipse, and why the fallout could shape the future of hip-hop for months to come. Drake, one of the biggest names in modern hip-hop, has once again found himself at the center of controversy, and this time the stakes feel higher than ever. Over the past few weeks, reports have emerged suggesting that the Canadian superstar misrepresented details about Kendrick Lamar, igniting a firestorm of criticism from fans, fellow artists, and media outlets alike. What began as subtle discrepancies in interviews and social media commentary quickly escalated into accusations that Drake had deliberately twisted the truth, creating a narrative that cast Kendrick in a negative light. Fans took notice immediately, dissecting every word, every clip, and every post for evidence of dishonesty. The backlash was swift, intense, and impossible to ignore. The situation was compounded when Drake released a new diss track that was supposed to assert dominance, silence critics, and respond to the growing scrutiny. Instead, reactions across social media were overwhelmingly critical. Fans and music commentators called the track underwhelming, uninspired, and out of touch. Even casual listeners questioned how someone of Drake's caliber could produce a song that seemed to lack the punch, creativity, and clever wordplay that fans had come to expect. Critics compared the track unfavorably to Kendrick's history of lyrical precision, emphasizing that not only was the diss weak, but it also failed to address the very real allegations of misrepresentation that had fans so upset in the first place. Social media exploded in response. Twitter became a battleground, with fans dissecting Drake's lyrics, questioning his intentions, and sharing clips from Kendrick interviews to highlight discrepancies. TikTok was flooded with reaction videos, meme compilations, and expert breakdowns of the diss track, each post adding to the growing narrative that Drake may have overreached. Instagram comment sections filled with debates and speculation, as casual listeners, hip-hop enthusiasts, and industry insiders weighed in. The combined force of public attention created a situation where every word, every move, and every post was being scrutinized in real time, leaving Drake with little room to maneuver. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar remained largely silent, choosing to let his actions and past work speak for themselves. Fans noted that his silence contrasted sharply with Drake's highly publicized missteps, reinforcing the perception that Drake was mishandling the situation. Commentators observed that Kendrick's choice to remain focused on his craft and avoid public feuds only heightened the criticism directed at Drake, who seemed more intent on controlling the narrative than addressing the concerns of fans and peers. This strategic silence made Drake's attempts to assert dominance appear even more desperate and less credible. Amid this chaos, Clipse, a legendary duo whose influence on hip-hop spans decades, was quietly making history. While much of the public's attention was on Drake's blunders and the debate over his alleged lies, Clipse executed a move that had fans celebrating and critics praising them for their innovation and timing. From rare releases to significant collaborations, the duo reminded the industry that consistency, credibility, and artistry often triumph over hype and drama. Their historic achievement served as a stark contrast to Drake's situation, highlighting the difference between legacy-building moves and reactive, poorly received attempts at controversy. The juxtaposition of these events could not have been more striking. On one side, Drake was facing a credibility crisis fueled by allegations, public backlash, and a weak diss track. On the other, Clipse was demonstrating the power of artistry, legacy, and strategic decision-making. Fans were forced to navigate this dichotomy, debating the implications of each story and what it meant for hip-hop culture. Social media analytics revealed spikes in engagement, showing that the controversy surrounding Drake had become a cultural event, while Clipse's historic achievement commanded a separate but equally passionate fan response. In the industry, reactions were just as varied. Fellow artists, producers, and executives weighed the risks and rewards of engaging publicly. Some expressed support for Drake, defending his right to respond in his own way, while others emphasized the missteps and weak execution of the diss track. Meanwhile, insiders praised Clipse for their timing, noting that they had managed to achieve something monumental while avoiding public feuds, drama, and unnecessary controversy. This contrast underscored a harsh lesson for rising and established artists alike. In a culture where perception matters as much as talent, every move is scrutinized, and not all attempts at retaliation or response achieve their intended effect. The fans' response was equally telling. Twitter threads, Instagram polls, and YouTube reaction videos all indicated that many supporters were losing patience with Drake's approach. Critics claimed that misrepresenting facts about a respected peer like Kendrick could not be excused by a single weak diss track. They argued that credibility, integrity, and lyrical skill mattered far more than hype or social media clout. For many, this week's events had transformed from casual gossip into a serious commentary on accountability, artistry, and the high-stakes nature of hip-hop reputation management. Ultimately, Part 1 sets the stage for a drama-filled saga in which Drake faces scrutiny over his credibility, his lyrical choices, and his public strategy, while Clipse quietly makes history, reinforcing the idea that in hip-hop, actions often speak louder than words. Fans, artists, and critics alike are now watching closely, anticipating every move, every track, and every statement. The next few weeks could redefine reputations, shape careers, and even alter the cultural narrative surrounding two of hip-hop's most important names. The backlash against Drake intensified as fans and industry insiders began dissecting every element of the diss track. What was intended as a bold move to silence critics and reassert dominance over Kendrick Lamar instead sparked a wave of ridicule and outrage. Fans quickly pointed out that the lyrics were lacking in substance, relying heavily on recycled phrases, weak punchlines, and forced references that failed to hit the mark. In forums, comment sections, and social media threads, users debated how a rapper of Drake's caliber could release a track that seemed so uninspired, and many argued that it undermined the credibility he had carefully built over nearly 2 decades in the industry. The diss track also brought the issue of credibility to the forefront. Many fans were not only disappointed by the lackluster song, but also outraged by what they perceived as deception regarding Kendrick Lamar. Tweets, YouTube reaction videos, and Instagram posts highlighted inconsistencies between Drake's claims and verified interviews or public statements made by Kendrick. Clips of Kendrick performing, interviews he had given, and social media posts were all analyzed in meticulous detail, each one framed as proof that Drake had twisted the narrative. This digital scrutiny amplified the perception that the diss track was not only weak but also misinformed, raising serious questions about Drake's motivations and honesty. Industry insiders weighed in as well. Producers, fellow artists, and executives noted that the backlash was a textbook example of how quickly public perception can shift in the age of social media. One prominent producer remarked, "When you're Drake, Everything you put out gets dissected like a science experiment. Fans notice the smallest inconsistencies, and if the energy isn't there, they'll call it out immediately. Collaborators who had previously worked closely with Drake reportedly expressed concern over the timing and execution of the track, fearing that the negative reception could impact not only his image but also upcoming projects that were scheduled for release. The industry response highlighted the delicate balance between reputation, credibility, and artistic output, especially when dealing with high-profile peer relationships. Meanwhile, fans mobilized online in record numbers. Twitter hashtags criticizing Drake's dishonesty trended worldwide. Reaction videos garnered millions of views, and TikTok users created compilations pointing out weak lines and lyrical inconsistencies. Comment sections across Instagram and YouTube were flooded with arguments, memes, and debates about how the situation should have been handled. Many fans compared the diss track to Kendrick's body of work, emphasizing his meticulous lyricism and clever storytelling, which made Drake's attempt appear even weaker in contrast. The level of engagement demonstrated how invested the hip-hop community was in holding artists accountable, both for their art and for their public persona. Amid all this, Clipse continued to make waves quietly. While Drake's drama dominated headlines, the veteran duo's historic move became a parallel story that highlighted the contrast between credibility and controversy. Clipse's strategic releases, timeless artistry, and careful public image management showed fans and industry insiders that legacy and craft often speak louder than reactionary moves or viral antics. Analysts noted that while Drake struggled to maintain his credibility amid accusations and backlash, Clipse solidified theirs, reminding everyone that consistent artistry often outlasts controversy. The timing of Drake's diss track, combined with the public's ability to fact-check instantly, created a perfect storm. Fans were not only critiquing the lyrical content, but also questioning Drake's honesty, his relationship with Kendrick, and his decision-making process. Social media amplified every misstep, and influencers, music commentators, and journalists weighed in, further escalating the situation. Some even suggested that this controversy could leave long-term consequences for Drake's reputation, particularly among younger fans who are active online and quick to call out perceived hypocrisy or misrepresentation. Financial implications were another dimension of the fallout. Streams for the diss track spiked initially due to curiosity, but engagement metrics such as likes, shares, and replay value reflected widespread dissatisfaction. Analysts predicted that negative reception could impact future revenue opportunities, collaborations, and brand partnerships, as sponsors and collaborators often factor in public sentiment when making decisions. In today's music industry, perception can directly affect earnings, and a poorly received track combined with credibility questions was a double blow to Drake's brand. As the debate raged on, Kendrick Lamar remained largely silent, allowing the public to draw conclusions from the evidence in his body of work rather than engaging in a tit-for-tat battle. This silence only magnified the criticism aimed at Drake, as it created a narrative where one artist's restraint highlighted the other's misstep. The juxtaposition of Kendrick's measured approach against Drake's weak diss track further fueled discussions about professionalism, artistry, and strategic decision-making in hip-hop. By the end of this period, the controversy had evolved into more than just a feud. It had become a cultural event, shaping conversations around honesty, artistry, and credibility in the music world. Fans, insiders, and casual listeners were all watching closely, debating not just who won in the short term, but who would maintain relevance and respect over the long haul. The situation underscored the reality that in today's fast-paced, digitally connected world, every word, every lyric, and every statement carries weight, and the consequences of missteps are immediate, amplified, and often unavoidable. As the backlash against Drake continued to grow, the focus shifted from the diss track itself to the underlying allegations that he had misrepresented facts about Kendrick Lamar. Fans began to scrutinize every past interview, social media post, and public statement, comparing them to Kendrick's verified words and actions. Twitter threads dissected line by line what Drake had said, pointing out inconsistencies, omissions, and exaggerations. Clips of Kendrick performing live, interviews he had given over the years, and even behind-the-scenes footage were analyzed to counter Drake's claims. Social media became a courtroom in its own right, with fans acting as both jury and prosecutor, arguing passionately over what they saw as the erosion of credibility from one of hip-hop's biggest stars. While much of the online conversation focused on Drake's credibility, industry insiders were quietly assessing the broader implications of this controversy. Collaborators, producers, and label executives recognize that the public's perception of honesty and authenticity is critical in an era where fans can fact-check in real time. Some expressed concern that Drake's misstep could affect not only his image but also the willingness of other artists to collaborate with him. In interviews with music journalists, several insiders pointed out that a weak diss track combined with accusations of dishonesty was a dangerous combination, potentially impacting his career far beyond the immediate controversy. The fan response was intense, passionate, and divided. Die-hard Drake supporters tried to defend him, arguing that artistic license allowed for exaggeration or that the diss track was simply entertainment. Others were less forgiving, claiming that a rapper of Drake's stature had a responsibility to be truthful and that his actions had undermined both his credibility and his artistry. Reaction videos, memes, and live streams dissected every aspect of the diss track, highlighting perceived flaws in lyricism, flow, and timing. TikTok and Instagram became battlegrounds for opinion, with users creating content ranging from humorous critiques to serious analytical breakdowns. The virality of these posts made it clear that public perception was shifting rapidly, and every misstep was being magnified exponentially. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar remained largely silent, letting his body of work and carefully curated public image speak for itself. This strategy contrasted sharply with Drake's highly visible attempt to respond and dominate the narrative. Fans and commentators noted that Kendrick's measured approach made Drake's diss track appear even weaker, emphasizing the difference between strategy, patience, and impulsive public engagement. Analysts highlighted that Kendrick's credibility, reinforced by years of thoughtful artistic decisions, was helping him weather the controversy while Drake struggled to regain control of the narrative. In contrast to the chaos surrounding Drake, Clipse was quietly cementing their place in hip-hop history. While public attention remained divided between the feud and social media speculation, Clipse's recent historic achievement, a milestone in releases, tours, or cultural influence, received praise from fans and critics alike. Industry insiders noted that the duo's success underscored the importance of consistent artistry, strategic planning, and long-term credibility. Where Drake's situation highlighted the pitfalls of reactive, publicity-driven moves, Clipse demonstrated how focus, preparation, and authenticity could create enduring impact. The contrast was stark and made for a compelling cultural discussion. Media coverage amplified both narratives, balancing stories of Drake's missteps with analysis of Clipse's historic achievement. Opinion pieces, interviews with insiders, and viral clips fueled conversations, reinforcing the idea that hip-hop culture is shaped as much by perception as by talent. For Drake, the combination of public backlash, social media virality, and media analysis intensified the pressure to respond, or risk being seen as defeated in the court of public opinion. Fans debated whether silence, apology, or a stronger track could restore his credibility, while others questioned if damage had already been done. Financial implications became increasingly relevant as well. The initial spike in streams from the diss track reflected curiosity rather than enthusiasm, and engagement metrics indicated dissatisfaction. Concerts, sponsorships, and collaborations were being evaluated with caution, as partners factored in the ongoing controversy and its potential impact on their brands. The situation highlighted a critical lesson. In today's music industry, perception can have immediate financial consequences, and credibility is often as valuable as artistic output. By the end of Part 3, it became clear that Drake's challenge was multifaceted. He was not only dealing with the criticism of his latest diss track, but also navigating a broader credibility crisis, amplified by fans, social media, and industry scrutiny. Meanwhile, Kendrick's restraint and Clipse's strategic success provided sharp contrasts, illustrating the stakes of public perception and long-term decision-making in hip-hop. The story was no longer just about a diss track. It had become a defining moment, one that could shape reputations, careers, and cultural influence for years to come. As the controversy surrounding Drake intensified, social media became a relentless arena for debate, critique, and speculation. Fans dissected every word of his diss track, comparing lines to Kendrick Lamar's verified statements and past interviews. Twitter threads exploded with analysis, highlighting inconsistencies and pointing out where Drake's claims didn't align with the facts. Reaction videos on YouTube and TikTok went viral, with influencers and fans alike weighing in on the lyrical weaknesses, the credibility gap, and the perceived disrespect to Kendrick. Memes, parodies, and clips of past Kendrick performances flooded Instagram and TikTok, illustrating the growing cultural narrative. Drake's diss track had failed to land, and his credibility was being questioned on a massive scale. Industry insiders closely monitored the fallout, recognizing that this wasn't just a fan debate, it was a test of Drake's influence, reputation, and strategic decision-making. Producers, executives, and fellow artists commented, both publicly and privately, on how a misstep of this magnitude could ripple across his career. Some argue that a single, poorly executed track could be forgiven if addressed correctly, while others noted that when combined with allegations of dishonesty, it created a deeper problem. Trust, authenticity, and respect in the industry were as crucial as musical output, and critics were quick to argue that Drake had miscalculated. Financial concerns also began to surface. Streaming numbers initially surged due to curiosity, but engagement metrics told a different story. Fans were listening, but not celebrating. Social media engagement reflected widespread criticism, and the long-term implications for branding, sponsorships, and collaborative projects became increasingly clear. Record labels and promoters had to reassess upcoming projects, weighing the potential reputational risk against commercial gain. Even subtle missteps could lead to delays, cancellations, or reduced visibility for future releases. The lesson was evident. In today's music industry, the court of public opinion can affect both financial outcomes and artistic relevance. Meanwhile, Clipse continued to dominate in stark contrast. While Drake's controversy flooded the internet, Clipse's historic achievements quietly reinforced their legacy. Whether it was a groundbreaking release, sold-out performances, or a cultural milestone, the duo reminded fans and the industry that artistry, consistency, and timing often outweigh drama-driven attention. Analysts emphasize that Clipse's ability to maintain credibility, innovate creatively, and make strategic moves while avoiding public feud created a blueprint for longevity. Where Drake's reactive approach led to public scrutiny and fan division, Clipse demonstrated that calculated action and authentic artistry are rewarded with respect, cultural influence, and lasting impact. As discussions raged online, the juxtaposition between Drake and Clipse became a central talking point. Fans debated not only the diss track's lyrical content, but also the larger implications. What does it mean for credibility, artistic integrity, and hip-hop culture when a superstar can be publicly called out for dishonesty? Memes and videos juxtaposing Drake's weak diss with Clipse's historic success spread. Would he respond again, attempt a stronger diss, or remain silent? Each option carried potential risks. Responding could further fan outrage if executed poorly, while silence might be interpreted as an admission of fault. The dynamics of modern hip-hop, fueled by social media, meant that perception often outweighed facts, and every move Drake made would be scrutinized and amplified. In this environment, miscalculations could have far-reaching consequences for both reputation and commercial viability. Meanwhile, Kendrick's silence and careful management of his public image became a stark contrast to Drake's turbulence. Fans praised Kendrick for letting his body of work speak for itself, reinforcing the idea that credibility, talent, and restraint often outweigh reactive attempts to dominate the narrative. Industry analysts highlighted that Kendrick's approach further underscored Drake's misstep, showing how seasoned artists can manage controversy without damaging their brand or cultural standing. By this stage, the story had evolved into more than just a diss track. It had become a defining cultural moment. Drake's credibility was in question, Fan outrage was at an all-time high, and Clipse was quietly cementing their legacy, demonstrating the power of artistry, strategy, and consistency. Social media, the music industry, and fans were all watching closely, and the next moves made by Drake would determine whether he could recover his reputation or whether this controversy would be remembered as a turning point in his career. The stakes could not have been higher, and the ripple effects were far-reaching. As the controversy surrounding Drake escalated, the stakes for his career became clearer than ever. The combination of fan outrage, industry scrutiny, and social media backlash had created a high-pressure environment where every decision, every track, and every statement carried enormous weight. While some artists might have relied on public silence or carefully crafted responses, Drake found himself in a position where his credibility had been questioned on multiple fronts. The diss track, intended to assert dominance and address criticisms, had instead amplified doubts about his honesty and artistic integrity, leaving him at a crossroads that could define the next chapter of his career. Fans were relentless in their critiques. Across Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, countless users highlighted the inconsistencies between Drake's claims and Kendrick Lamar's verified statements. Reaction videos dissected his lyrics line by line, pointing out weak punchlines, awkward references, and missed opportunities for sharp wordplay. Memes and compilations compared Drake's track to Kendrick's previous work, emphasizing Kendrick's precision, clever lyricism, and authenticity. Even casual listeners, who might not have followed the feud closely, were joining the conversation, fueled by the viral nature of social media discourse. The public scrutiny was immediate, pervasive, and impossible to ignore. Industry insiders echoed the fans' concerns, but with a more strategic lens. Producers, collaborators, and label executives recognized that credibility is a crucial currency in the music world. While Drake's talent and star power remained unquestioned, the perception that he had misrepresented facts or acted impulsively could influence future collaborations, sponsorship deals, and marketing opportunities. Some insiders argue that a carefully executed response, whether through music, public statements, or strategic projects, might help restore his credibility, but they stressed that timing and execution would be critical. A misstep here could have long-term repercussions, not just for public perception, but for his financial and professional standing. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar continued to maintain a measured silence, allowing the controversy to unfold without direct engagement. Fans and critics alike noted that this approach highlighted Drake's missteps, emphasizing the contrast between restraint and impulsive reaction. By not responding directly, Kendrick reinforced his reputation as a thoughtful, strategic artist whose credibility was built on consistency and substance rather than reactionary measures. This silence, while powerful, also intensified pressure on Drake, forcing him to consider whether another track, an apology, or public explanation could salvage his reputation, or if the damage was already irreversible. In stark contrast, Clipse was quietly achieving historic success, further emphasizing the difference between calculated artistry and reactive controversy. Their carefully timed releases, strategic collaborations, and attention to long-term legacy reminded fans and industry professionals alike that consistency, planning, and focus often outshine dramatic but poorly executed attempts to dominate headlines. Clipse's historic moment served as a cultural touchstone, highlighting how artistry and strategic career management can build lasting influence, while Drake's missteps demonstrated the risks of overexposure and credibility erosion in the digital age. Financially, the ramifications of the controversy were becoming apparent. While curiosity drove initial streams of the diss track, engagement metrics, likes, shares, repeat listens, reflected widespread dissatisfaction. Tours, sponsorships, and collaborations were being reassessed, with promoters and partners factoring public perception into their decisions. In a music industry where fan sentiment can have immediate economic consequences, Drake's perceived misstep demonstrated how critical reputation management has become. Every track, interview, and social media post now carried weight, and the challenge of restoring confidence in both fans and collaborators was daunting. As discussions continued online, cultural analysts pointed out that this controversy was about more than just Drake or Kendrick. It highlighted broader trends in hip-hop culture, including accountability, credibility, and the influence of social media. The incident underscored the idea that artists are no longer judged solely on talent or output, but also on integrity, strategic decision-making, and public perception. Drake's challenge was emblematic of the high stakes faced by modern superstars, where even small missteps can be amplified into career-defining moments. By the end of this period, it was clear that Drake faced a pivotal choice. He could attempt to reclaim credibility through a carefully considered response, remain silent and hope the controversy subsides, or risk further missteps that might deepen the perception of dishonesty and weakness. Meanwhile, Kendrick's restraint and Clipse strategic success highlighted the contrast between reactionary drama and long-term legacy. The situation had evolved into a defining moment for hip-hop, illustrating that credibility, artistry, and strategic thinking are as critical as talent in shaping both careers and culture. Ultimately, this episode served as a cautionary tale for artists everywhere. In an era dominated by social media, fan scrutiny, and instant virality, the margin for error is narrower than ever. Drake's actions, missteps, and the public reaction to them provide a blueprint for understanding how quickly reputations can be tested, and why thoughtful, strategic responses are essential. As fans, critics, and industry insiders watched closely, one thing became clear. The fallout from this moment would be felt for months, if not years, and the decisions Drake made next could define his place in hip-hop history for the long term. What do you think about Drake's latest controversy? Did he really misrepresent Kendrick? Or is this all just hype blown out of proportion? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your honest opinions and reactions. If you've been following every twist in this drama, make sure to hit like to show your support and subscribe for more breaking news, insider updates, and deep dive analyses from the world of hip-hop. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss another explosive update on Drake, Kendrick, Clipse, or any major moments in music culture. Share this video with friends and fans who love hip-hop and want the full story behind the drama and historic moves happening right now. Stay tuned, because we'll continue to bring you every reaction, every track breakdown, and every insider detail as this story unfolds, making sure you're always ahead of the conversation.